This is Andi Purewal for Boxing News. I'm joined by Matchroom's Frank Smith here in Birmingham. Frank, good to see you. How you doing?
I'm good, mate. I'm good. Been enjoying some games of paddle. Feeling in the cold day of Birmingham, but glad to be here.
Well, I appreciate the very last minute invite to come and join the foursome of yourself, Mr. Matty Lawless and Jamie Moore. It was a good little workout, and now we get to talk about boxing. What more could we want?
What more, exactly. Paddle into boxing. What more could you ask for?
And then you get to go to the railway tomorrow night, Frank.
I can't wait for the railway. I missed it the first time round, and I'm very excited to be eating all of this wonderful food. And I'm not going to eat for 2 days to save up.
You're going to need to save some space for it, Frank, because it's heavy portions.
Is it as good as you?
It is, Frank. Like, I'm not just like bigging it up. Like when we went for the Pat Brown media lunch on Tuesday, Eddie was saying
to the railway, did you?
No, I wish we did. Eddie couldn't stop talking about it there to everyone. So
he loves his food.
Yeah,
as well.
So
loves his food.
There we are. But here we are, Birmingham. Edwards Yafai. A big fight to end the year on, Frank. What do you expect from this fight, this amateur rivalry coming into the fore in the pro ranks now?
Look, it's a real 50-50 fight. It's a great fight. You know, two brilliant fighters to come in together. You know, who went down really different paths. Obviously, Sonny, much more experienced in the pro ranks, become a world champion. He's been there. He's done that. Galal going and winning Olympic gold back in 2000. What would have been 2001, wouldn't it? When it
2001,
yeah, it was a long time ago. Winning Olympic gold, you know, two amazing fighters who've got a lot of history together, a lot of history. Not bad blood, I wouldn't say, between those two at all. You know, I think there's definitely, as we've seen, between the families, there's been some fire this week and in the build-up. But yeah, two fighters with a lot of respect for each other. You know, it's going to be a great atmosphere and a great event on Saturday. It just shows you don't always have to have too much hate or spite between fighters to build a great event, and that's what we've got here. You know, a proper fight, and it's a real 50-50. And you know, for us as promoters, although we promote both guys, our job's to deliver the best possible opportunities for the fighters we represent, and I think we've done that here, and excited for it.
I know both men, as you said, have a great deal of respect for each other. I know Sonny has some animosity around the amateur scene and how he never had the opportunity that Galal has, but aside from that, they've been very respectful. But yesterday, between the brothers, it seemed to erupt a little bit. What can you tell me about what happened there?
It all happened very quickly, you know, like, actually Sonny was about to say hello to Galal, like as you say, they've been very respectful. And so I was looking that way, and then it just sort of kicked off for a little scuffle to the right between, I think, Charlie, Gamal and Cal. All a bit of fun, isn't it? Yeah. You know, there's the history as well between Charlie and Cal, a fight that never happened, but there was a lot of back and forth when Cal was fighting. Obviously, Charlie's still going, but adds a bit of spice, doesn't it?
How much of an impact do you think Sonny not having Grant Smith in his corner will be?
Look, I think Sonny is a brilliant fighter, and he had a great career with Grant, and now he's got a new team that he's confident and happy with. You know, he knows how important this fight is. He knows he needs to work hard to win the fight. I don't know. No, I don't get too intertwined in fighter with their trainer relationship, because I think it's best to stay away. Let them do that with their trainers. You know, and but look, I think Sonny knows what he needs to do. He knows how difficult the fight is. He knows how good Galal fight is. He's been in there and sparred with him. You know, obviously we know professional boxing is very different, but he's been in the ring with him, and he knows he needs to come in 100% in this fight. So he wouldn't have cut any corners.
Being from Birmingham myself, I've asked Eddie on numerous occasions when you're going to come back, what does the city need? And it's always been a case of needing somebody just to be that headline fighter to be able to continuously bring it back. I know Galal might be the one for you guys currently, you see potentially being that man, but this time around it's been ticket sellers. Everybody on the card has sold a tremendous amount of tickets. Do you feel like there is a pathway there going into 2025? As long as there are ticket sellers, we could see more shows return to Birmingham.
100%. You know, this is our second show in Birmingham this year. We obviously did Cash Denny back at the what was the Results World, now BP Bowls. Great ticket sales that night, and we're going to have about 7,000 in there this Saturday as well. You know, and that's just credit to the fighters. A lot of the young fighters have sold very well, and it's a great main event, obviously. You know, so I think that plays a big part of it. We need to put on great events, and that's our focus. And if we do that, people will come.
Frank, Pat Brown, how exciting of a journey ahead does that young man have?
I'm so excited. And you know, when we sat down with him the first time, he actually said, I love tear-ups. And Jamie Moore, who's over there, probably is going to have something to say about that in his fights. But I love the idea of him loving tear-ups, because at the end of the day, it's what people want to see. You know, I may get in trouble for this, but very few fans or casual sports fans who can sit and watch 12 rounds of silky, pure boxing skill. People want to see tear-ups, knockouts, and that's what Pat Brown will bring. And I obviously wasn't there in Manchester the other day, but the turnout just for his announcement was huge. And that's the journey we're going to go on with him is going to be quite amazing. We're going to spend a lot of time in Manchester, but take him around the country as well, take him around the world. Imagine a Pat Brown tour to Vegas one day. Look, everyone was going after Pat Brown. There's people offering houses, and we wanted to make a big play to get him, and we did. And we're excited about what he's got to bring, and there's some other Olympic talent we're looking at as well, and we're excited about the future.
Just to pick up on the Olympic talent, Eddie mentioned to me from the GB lot who probably will only be Pat Brown, but then I asked him about the possibility of Delicious Orie, which kind of got the bells ringing. I know that Delicious in a position where he's considering a WWE or if he's going to go down the professional boxing route, but if he sticks around, Eddie said that it's certainly something that he's interested in. Do you feel like he's maybe the only other man or woman in the GB setup who might be picked up from Matchroom?
In the GB squad, yeah, I think that's the only other conversation we're having. We got approached about Lewis Richardson. I think he signed a deal elsewhere, but I didn't feel we were the right place for him. And if he had an offer elsewhere, we're never going to stand. We're never going to pretend or play around with fighters if it doesn't make sense for us. Delicious is another fighter we've been speaking to. We had a meeting, I think around AJ Fight Week. We had a meeting with him. He, as you say, he was having chats about the WWE as well. He's already got a great profile. He was supported very well through, into the Olympics. Had a lot of good partners, and yeah, definitely someone we'd be interested in. But everyone will be interested in Delicious, So let's see. But we're delighted that we got Pat Brown over the line, and delighted and excited to be starting that journey with him.
Just one more with Pat. Obviously, the cruiserweight scene domestically is stacked with so many potential fights, but one man, mate, you guys promote as well, Chev Clarke. At some point, a huge fight that could be made there.
Yeah, look, Chev's probably, he's obviously 10, 11 fights in. He's fighting for the European title in Monaco in a few weeks. That would be a great fight down the road. But, Chev's obviously advanced, really, where Pat is right now, and we need to do things the right way for Pat and build his career up. But those fights are all there. He's going to be in the biggest possible fights. He's going to be selling out arenas, and hopefully one day we can go to Old Trafford with him.
Frank, Conor Benn, obviously about half an hour ago or so, the UKAD have come out saying that they won't be appealing the decision from me and ADP. Just your initial reaction to that?
Yeah, good. I'm delighted. People can stop asking questions now, can't we? Can we? Look, it's been 2 years of. He's been the name that's been on everyone's tongue in every interview that's been that we've had, and it's been about the same thing over and over. When's it going to be settled? What's happening with this? What's happening with that? And even when he got cleared recently, it's still like, when are they going to appeal? What are they going to do? And it was never ending. But now the end is, we're at the end. He's dealt with it all. He's done everything asked of him. And people, I said this the other day, you don't have to be happy, as in with the way everything was dealt with at the time. Could we have done things differently? Could we have done things better? I'm sure we could. Could he have approached things differently? Could he have approached things in a better way? Probably, But it's done, and the heart of the issue was people wanted it to be looked into by the NADP or by UKAD. They bring in the NADP to do it. They've done that. They've made the decision. The NADP have made a decision. UKAD have chosen not to appeal it. So he's done everything asked of him. And it wasn't what people are saying, it wasn't on jurisdiction, it wasn't on, they went through the whole case. And he won the case. And he stuck with the same, message the whole way through. The whole way through from day one. When there would have been other ways of dealing with it, and he didn't want to do it, he wanted to clear his name. And he's done that. And whether people, there's always going to be people who don't agree with him or don't think he's done it, but he has. And now he's free to box in the UK, and he's, outside of Joshua and Fury, he's the biggest name in British boxing, undoubtedly, because he's been spoken about every day for 2 years, on every publication, everywhere. And now, he's not always going to be liked, necessarily, and I'd say that to him as well, but people are going to watch him, and I'm excited, because it's like starting a new career again, with someone brand new, really. Starting from day one again, and he wants all the big fights. and he's going to be around for a long time, and he can rule. You know, I believe he can rule British boxing.
Is he looking to now get a licence again with the British Boxing Board of Control, or is that still a fractured relationship?
I don't know. I mean, he's got a licence with a US commission. There's no reason he can't box in the UK, just like a lot of other fighters box in the UK with international licences. I can't speak on his behalf about whether he's going to. Now look, the British Boxing Board of Control, and I think Conor said it in his statement. He wants to move forward with his career in a positive manner, right, and just get on with things, you know. And the reality is, to box in the UK, the British Boxing Board of Control are going to be involved in his fights. Whether he gets a licence, I don't know. That's a question that he'll have to decide how he wants to approach it. But I'm just excited for what's to come, and he's be back in the UK and he's going to be in big fights.
Chris Eubank Jr. fight, how are talks progressing on that front?
I actually met with Ben Shalom yesterday in London. You know, I don't know. I think the reality is Conor's got a lot of options. Like, Conor's in a much better position than Chris in terms of Conor's got 8-9 years ahead of him, right? Or maybe even longer, or 5 years, whatever he wants to do. But he's got a long time left in the sport. He's young, he's fresh. There's so many fights out there for him where he can do very well. He's not desperate. Me sitting here personally, I would love to make the Chris Eubank Jr. fight, right? But we're not going to make a wrong decision for Conor Benn's career just off the back of, oh, it'd be great. You know, like, yes, it would be great to make that fight. It's a huge fight. It's massive. But at the same time, it all has to make sense. So we'll have to see. You know, Chris is in a different position. Chris has probably got, and I'd say this even if we promoted him, like, because he's 35 years old, I think, 36. You know, like, he's probably got a year left in the sport and wants to make as much money as possible. So we'll see. We'll see. You know, I've been down these paths before of negotiating for this fight. It took 10 or 12 weeks the first time round.
Picking that back up, Frank, a couple of hours later.
Got chucked out of Power League, didn't we?
Yeah, we did.
Yeah.
It's your fault. You must have upset somebody.
No, we're unhappy that you were filming in there and might have devalued their brand.
I'd say the opposite. They've just missed out on free exposure, Frank. But here we are. We're back at the Fight Hotel now, and yeah, he was obviously talking about the Chris Eubank Jr. Conor Benn fight, I believe, as the last topic. So where are things currently at in terms of that fight? Yeah,
I'm not sure where I got. It was a few hours back now. That's the first part of that interview. So yeah, I had meetings with Ben, and we'll see what happens. You know, look, it's dealing with two different characters, aren't you? You know, in Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. You know, Conor wants to get back up and running and get his career moving. You know, and Chris negotiates in the way Chris negotiates. So we'll see how things play out.
How did the meeting go with Mr. Shalom the other day?
It was all right. You know, I haven't. I've always been quite open when it comes to doing business. I can stand and have a conversation with, you know, and just make things happen. If it makes sense and it works, then we'll make things happen. So, you know, it was spent an hour and a bit with him, talking about it. Spoke about some other things, and yeah, no bad words.
I mean, I think you've said it to me in the past, you're open to, and Eddie said the same, you're open to talking to anybody if it comes down to business. I know in the past you've had somewhat of a back and forth with Mr. Shalom. Are you a Twitter troll now, though, Frank?
He called me a Twitter troll. I haven't even got Twitter. So, you know, I'm not on Twitter. It was... I obviously respond to questions, right? Like, I get asked questions. And I think the latest one of this was about the Sky deal. I responded to a question of, do you think they will extend his deal or something like that? And I said, if I was Sky, an executive at Sky, for these reasons, no. It wasn't, I don't just make comments, like sit here and go, ask me a question about the, like, you know, it's my personal view. And you don't have to like what I say, but it doesn't make me a Twitter troll. And he can say, you know, he said about my deal in Japan, it didn't go very well. Yeah. No, that's life. That's business sometimes. It doesn't always work out. But that's a deal in a fifth country for us, you know, as a new thing. You know, ring me when you can succeed in the UK for 15 years, happy days. Like, you know, I tried to do something different, tried to expand, and it hasn't worked out well. You know, that's life. And I accept that not everything is always going to go to plan. But as long as you can say you've given 100% and you did everything to make it a success, you know, and we move on. But yeah, look, I will always, as you said there and Eddie said, I will always sit down with people, regardless of whether I have a good relationship with them, regardless of what I said. I'm an honest person, and I will tell the truth. I'll give my opinion. I'm not going to sit here and tell you something just to keep people happy. But I don't go out of my way to say things, to cause offence to anyone, or just give you my view. But let's see. Like I say again, it's never stopped me from doing deals with people in the past, whether I've said things good or bad about them.
To ask Ben Frank, let's say if Eubank Ben was to progress, those talks that is that a fight which ends up on Sky, or does it end up on the Zone?
We'll see. Look, we're all in discussions. I think we have an exclusive contract with DAZN, and Conor is signed to us exclusively, and is on DAZN as a fighter, signed to us. Chris isn't signed under a promotional agreement with Boxer. He's in a partnership agreement. That's what was stated at the start. He's not signed to Sky. It's a very different structure. That's not me saying it doesn't in some way involve DAZN and Sky together, but that will be a conversation really that the broadcasters would have. And I think by saying that, I'm not saying Chris. I think Chris would like it on both broadcasters, but he's in a different contractual position than us and Conor are. So let's see how it plays out. I think you've got to really get the crux of the deal done before you get to that point. Like, can broadcasters align? We've seen they can, if that's what it takes. But first and foremost, you need to get a deal done between the parties that everyone's happy with, and that's the initial bit.
Just to make sure we cover everything that we did earlier, Conor and his licence in the UK now, do you expect to see him...
We covered that.
Did we? But I'm just trying to think if we got interrupted when we got kicked out.
No, we were on the Eubank. I think I said he'll decide what he wants to do, whether that means get a British a BBFC licence or use his international licence and fight as a foreign fighter, as many fighters do, even many British fighters have done. That'll be something that he'll decide.
There we go then, Frank. Just moving forwards over, sticking with him with Conor Benn, Mario Barrios. Yep. I've seen him also mention on social media, he said that it's a fight he's instructed his team to push forwards to as a first choice or a front runner. Yep. What can you tell me on that front? Yeah,
I spoke to him yesterday morning. It was actually before I met with Ben to discuss the Eubank fight. He said, I can't be bothered to mess around with the Eubank fight. Just get me Barrios. So we're working on everything. He wants... I think I said in the interview earlier, he's got a long career where he can be a huge name in British boxing for a long time, and he's not look, we would all love to make the Eubank fight, of course, but he also is thinking he can go and win a world title. So we're speaking to Barrios' team and see where that plays out.
How have those talks progressed?
We've got a good relationship. Obviously, Louis de Cubas looks after Barrios. We've got a great relationship with him. Eddie's in discussions with him, and we'll see how it plays out. This is very fresh, the last 24, 48 hours. But that's a massive fight if we can make it. Conor Benn fighting for the world title is huge.
Just a couple of other things that I want to pick up on. Speaking to Eddie on Tuesday, he mentioned to me the Shakur Stevenson-Schofield fight. Yep. What can you tell me on that front?
We're working through it now, not done.
Would you say that's the most likely next fight then for Shakur?
I think very likely, yeah. Not done though, but it's a very likely fight.
He was quite receptive to it online, and is it a surprise to you to see somebody kind of react to the news of a fight becoming public and being as open, saying, yeah, I'll have it, let's accept it and get things moving?
I think it's good. I think it's refreshing to see people wanting to take fights, and challenge themselves. I think what's Floyd-Schofield, 18-0, I think. He had a tough fight last time out. I think he fought René Tellez, but he's a tough fighter, René Tellez. But, he believes in himself, and fair play to him. Because Shakur Stevenson's a special fighter, and if you're going to step in there with him, all respect. So, I think we're in for a great fight if that happens.
Eddie also mentioned that he would like, I assume, as a first choice option, the Berenchyk fight to try and make a unification. But is the Berenchyk fight more so on the back burner now? Are you guys just looking to focus on that Schofield deal?
I think it was something that was looked at. Whether it's possible or not is a different story. I think the Schofield fight is much more likely. But again, in boxing, anything can happen in 24 hours, so let's see.
And then Virgil Ortiz and Ennis, those talks as well. Now, Eddie said to me that correspondence had suggested that the fight was going to be at 147, but that was kind of an offer which was proposed to you guys. So is that the case that 147 was proposed to Matchroom?
Yeah, I believe so. That's my understanding as well, But Geron's always wanted unifications as well, or big names. Virgil Ortiz is a big fight, great fight. But yeah, the weight is a part of it, obviously a big part of it. So again, that's another one. We'll see how the next 24 hours or so go. But that was the intention from our side.
147, we've seen Virgil struggle quite frequently in the past, and obviously he's hospitalised as well. A surprise to you that was considered? What was the talks like around that? Any concerns that he could even try and get down to that weight if the fight was to be agreed?
Look, obviously that's their team as well, isn't it, to decide. We're not on Virgil Ortiz's team. We don't know what his position was in previous fights, i.e. when he did struggle with the weight, if there was potential. So that's for them to come out with more details of. Obviously we represent Eubank. He's a 147 world champion. So for us, that's the focus is on him. And if his team say that he can make 147, then great.
Since speaking to Eddie on Tuesday, there were more comments suggesting that 154 is now the more likely outcome. Would you agree with that now that we're at 154 stage?
I think we've got to see, look, Geron's obviously got opportunities to go and do unifications as well. There's Stanionis there, there's Barrios. There's great fights to be made. Norman as well, who fights next month in December. In December. So look, there's unifications to be made as well. So we've got to make the right call for Eubank. So let's see.
This rumoured card on Feb 22nd.
Looks great if it's true.
How true do you think it will be?
I don't know. Dan Raphael, I've seen what he said. If it's real, that's amazing.
I do want to ask, Shakur still looking to be on the Feb 22nd card, or is there a delay because of the Schofield talks?
No, I think that would be the plan if Shakur was to fight, and if Feb 22nd is happening, then that would be the plan for that fight on there.
So you guys represent Beterbiev-Bivol as well, alongside Vadim Kornilov, the Beterbiev rematch.
How long? Great fight if that happened.
Is that looking likely now?
I think it's the fight everyone wants to make. I think it's the fight that makes the most sense. It's not done yet, but that's the fight everyone wants to see. So I'm hopeful we can get it over the line for. I believe it was a great fight the first time around, but I believe Beterbiev-Bivol deserves an opportunity to get back in there and look to become undisputed. I'm
going to ask you, Frank, that Feb 22nd card, I know you're still waiting for it all to be announced. Yeah, great card if it comes through. All of those fights in their own right, I'm looking at the list now, they could easily headline a show somewhere.
Well, that's been the case now throughout as well. With all of these fight cards, they can all headline in some way on different shows, and it's great. It's great, and they get better and better because every card, if that card is perceived to be true, every card gets better and better, and everyone goes, that is the best card they've done.
If it's true.
If it's true.
Does Beterbiev-Bivol headline Feb 22nd for you?
For me, yeah. I think it was it. Do you know what? I actually think it got the platform it deserved when it happened the first time around. Because, prior to that fight was a huge fight within boxing, but we didn't really think, could it captivate a broader audience? And I think it got given the platform it deserved, with the major push that Riyadh season put into it. And yeah, I believe, everyone wants to see a second one.
I was going to also get your thoughts. I know Dubois Parker's mentioned on it, but away from that, the Klitschko rumoured, reported fight has come out that there was preliminary talks of somewhat for Daniel Dubois to face Vladimir Klitschko. Did you hear anything along those lines?
No, never heard of it. I think Vladimir might come out though and fight Jake Paul. Jake Paul's that would be good, wouldn't it? Klitschko, Jake Paul.
Frank, also want to get your thoughts on the Catterall-Barboza fight being ordered. Do you think that's most likely now for Jack?
Yeah, it would be great if we could do it. Look, there's a lot of, maybe confusion's the wrong word, but around what Teofimo Lopez is doing. He seems very quiet. There's got this situation going on with Top Rank. I'd love to see that Catterall-Barboza fight for the title, even for an interim title, rather than an eliminator. I think that is the fight that makes a lot of sense. There's also talk about the winner of Paro-Hitchins as well, possibly fighting Jack. Jack's in a great position now. He wants the biggest fights possible. He does want a world title shot next. But if they don't present themselves, then the Barboza fight makes the most sense.
Just on the theme of Teofimo Lopez, I don't know if you saw over social media, he said that his team sent out offers to Devin Haney and George Kambosos Jr. Obviously, George you've teamed up with recently, and they were all swiftly rejected. Do you know anything about that? Was an offer sent for Lopez Kambosos too?
I can't sit here and say it wasn't, in case it was done before. It was only when did we announce George last week? So unless something happened before then, I don't believe so. If I'm honest, for George to fight Teofimo. But in terms of Haney, I mean, when they say sending offers, like as in top rank sending, I don't know what the whole situation is right now and his position. I know there was stuff going on between him and top rank, and that I'm sure would have to be settled before he did anything.
So whilst George has teamed up with Matchroom in this period of, say, a week, you guys haven't had any back and forth or any correspondence?
I don't believe so in the last week. Unless, obviously, we work with George, with Lou DeBella as well, and DeBella Promotions. So unless they've contacted them, but I personally haven't heard anything about it.
And just to ask as well, Frank, Chisora Wallin, there is a press conference currently ongoing up in Manchester. Just your thoughts on that?
Yeah, look, I love Derek. I've always, outside of the business of boxing, Derek's someone who's become a good friend, and he's a mate to me. And it's all he wants to do, is box. Because there's been times in the past where I've said to him, what are you doing? As in, you made a load of money, you've been in with everyone. You've been with all the big names. What do you want from this sport? And he wants to get to 50 fights or what, So it's going to be an interesting fight. He shocked everyone when he beat Joe Joyce. Heavyweight boxing's mad because you would have said you should retire, then he beat Joe Joyce, and it's just it's a career that seems to have no end in Derek Chisora. So I wish him all the best. Like I say, if I'm not working that weekend, I'll be up there watching him and cheering him on.
I'm going to ask Frank, obviously, not just yourself, a lot of people echo those calls of wanting to see Derek retire for a while now. Obviously, there was a lot of rumours of him potentially facing Jarrell Miller. Is there a bit more of a relief that it's somebody like an Otto Wallin who isn't known for being that aggressive, come forward guy who won't necessarily get caught up in a slugfest, if you will?
Look, for me, it's all he's ever, again, I go back to the point, it's all he's ever done. And he loves boxing, and that's what he wants to do. And I can't tell, it's not for me. My thing is more what do you want from the sport? Do you know what I mean? As in, there is no names he could really fight now. There is no events he could be in. He's been in huge events in Germany. He's been in stadiums. He's fought for world titles. He's done everything, and he's made a load of dough. And it's that's the question I'd ask. Do you know what I mean? Take out the retirement talk. That for me is the reason of why do you still want to do this? Because what more do you want from it? So I think Jarrell Miller fight would have been a lot bigger fight, being honest, because Jarrell's obviously got a much bigger personality than Otto Wallin. But I'm sure Dell will bring some heat to it. But yeah, look, every fight at heavyweight's dangerous though. That's the truth of it, especially with all these guys, dangerous fights. But yeah, like I say, I'll be there for him.
Well, Frank, listen, I appreciate your time. I'll leave you to go enjoy the rest of your day. I'll see you at a press conference later. Thanks for speaking to me in Boxing News.
Cheers, mate.